Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Wherever you are joining us from, welcome to Open Source Friday. And I apologize if there is a slight background sound going on. I have a bit of a flood situation in my office today, so apologies for the extra noise. Welcome everyone. Where is everyone joining from? I think I see some folks who typically come by. Hey, Sanjay, thank you. Thank you for being here, Nikita. Thank you. Thank you, Camila, for learning Git and GitHub. Welcome, everyone. I hope everyone is super pumped. We are finally in October, if you can believe it. This is it. Hacktoberfest is kicked off. I hope all of you got started on your contributing plans for the month and beyond. And welcome to Open Source Friday. The purpose of this stream is to highlight the projects that are making our lives easier. And of course, not only the maintainers and contributors to these projects, but awesome folks who work at these companies that can help us actually use the technology to the best of our ability. So I'm super stoked today because we have a really exciting guest. I'm sure maybe some of you have followed him on social media, but Dennis Ivy is going to be joining us. And if you don't know where Dennis Ivy works, then maybe you missed the thumbnail, which I needed to update last minute. But we're going to be talking about Appwrite. We're going to be talking about this Automagic backend thing for all our things, right? For all our APIs and our databasing needs. So super excited because it's a fully open source project, although they do have a cloud offering for, I want to say it's their enterprise tier, but Dennis is joining us soon, so he can go ahead and clarify all of that. Thank you, everyone who's joining. I am joining you live from Florida, sunny, hot Florida. Everyone who's joining from Germany, Madrid, welcome. So let's go ahead and introduce Dennis. And in case you haven't met Dennis, I'm going to go ahead and also share the links to Dennis's social, so you can go ahead and give Dennis a follow on Twitter. I think that might be the place where he's the most active, but again, we'll ask him when he gets here. But Dennis is, it's got one of my favorite things about people, which I need to stop sounding biased every time I make intros about self to other developers or folks who don't have a formal computer science degree, because it doesn't mean I don't think people should get it, but it's just really cool to see folks that have, through their discipline and work and grit, really made a career in this industry that's so tough, especially coming from a non-traditional background. So Dennis is a self-taught developer, started their career about 10 years ago. Just recently started working with Appwrite, super pumped. Looks like he's done it all. He's been in product and sold the product built for a company of his. So he's been in the startup world. He's been in that game. Is also an avid YouTuber. If you have not subscribed to Dennis's channel, don't worry. I'm going to share those links here too. And also is one of those teachers. If you ever purchase an Udemy course, who here has all the Udemy courses? Yeah, me. And we keep buying them. But actually, Dennis has a couple of Udemy courses that he has taught himself. So, hey, go for it. Go ahead and sign up for his courses as well. Dennis's passions include putting out free educational content, which is what we're all about here, about the power of community and the power of free and open source learning. So I think this is a perfect guest for us. So let's give Dennis a warm virtual welcome. What does that look like? Stars, sparkles? I don't know. Welcome, Dennis.
Hey, it's good to be here. So excited.
Thank you for being here. Where are you right now, Dennis?
I'm actually in Portland, Oregon, but actually originally from the west coast of Florida, or at least I was there about 2 years ago. So I noticed you were from Florida, so we're kind of in the same area originally.
Get out. Yeah, so I live about an hour from Tampa. It's a small, I'd say it's like a little subdivision, suburbs of Sarasota and that whole area. Yeah. So if you know the west coast of Florida, yeah,
Yep.
me and the retirees just chilling here. It's fine. It's fine. It's
That was
fine. Well, lucky you got out of Florida and you're now in Portland. I still need to make my way there. So you started to work for Appwrite, I guess, just briefly, like a month ago, maybe a little bit over a month.
Yeah, I actually crossed my my first month just yesterday. So September 5th. It's now October 5th. Just finished my my first 30 days here. So I'm super honored to be working here. It's super exciting. The first month has been kind of a overload of information, a lot of stuff to do. I love the speed of the startup culture because I did come from a more of a corporate organization. So it's been really exciting, and I just feel very blessed to be able to be a part of something like this because it's such a trendy organization right now. I mean,
Oh,
they're
you
doing,
bet.
and if you mention Appwrite on social media, anywhere on Twitter, YouTube, everybody just knows it. And it's like, this is pretty neat. I don't really have to promote anything. And it's just, I just mentioned where I'm from, and I feel like Appwrite's doing more for me than I'm doing for it. So
I
I
love this. Listen, build a great product, and the product really, like, the popularity of the product sells itself, and
yes.
you get to do cool stuff while, teaching us how to use it. So that is awesome. Well, because I'm obviously extremely nosy, and before we get kicked off to talk about all things Upright, obviously super big supporter of Hacktoberfest, always have been, always pleased that we make a month dedicated effort to give back to this ecosystem. But I want to know about you. So what drew you to open source? Did you remember what your like first kind of dipping your toes in open source, like what that was like and what project it was for? And then obviously, I don't know if your boss is watching. Dennis is very happy at Upright. I want to ask him why he joined, why he joined Upright, and then we can get kicked off talking about the tech itself. That all right?
Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
Absolutely. So my first introduction to open source was actually sort of by accident. So I put out a lot of tutorials on YouTube, and with those tutorials, I usually would have like a GitHub repo that people can check out. So that will usually have like the starter code, the final code, and I was already familiar with like GitHub and how all this works. I did, work on projects before that, so I'm familiar with the idea, but I didn't understand the idea of somebody just submitting a PR randomly to a public repo, because before that I only worked on private repos. I was self-taught, so I wasn't really familiar with a lot of the lingo that goes on in the industry. So when I started getting these PRs for like, updating the README file, updating just code and fixing things, even adding stuff to my code, I actually didn't know what to do for a while. For the first couple of months, I was just like, okay, cool. I guess this is like a comment, maybe like on a YouTube channel, because I get those a lot. So I didn't know what to do with that. And then at one point, I decided to try out this idea of creating like a social network. And I open sourced it because I talked to Eddie Zhao, and he kind of gave me this idea. So he taught me how to kind of go through this whole process. And we open sourced it. And within the first month, we had over I think 500 contributors. I don't want to misrepresent that. Maybe it was around that number, but over 1,000 people in a Discord server that we created just for this project. And that project actually ended up being a little bit overwhelming for me. And I was like, okay, I can't do this alone because it's too much for me to handle all that. But in that process, I got to meet some of the coolest people that I've ever met, some of the smartest developers that I still work with to this day. And that was like the most amazing thing ever, because I started alone. Nobody in my family is in this industry. So I was always used to just studying, from the library, going online, asking questions, but nobody to really talk to. So when I started working with people, I realized that this is a way to actually connect, get to know people, and, eventually leads to jobs and so on. So I think is an absolutely amazing thing.
I love that you had such a broad experience, and then now you get to work at a company that's all about this, right? All about open source.
Yeah.
That's super, super cool. All right, let's talk about Upright. I want to know a little bit of history. Like you said, yes, there is a ton of buzz in social media. You folks, especially this month, super appreciate your support of Hacktoberfest. You've always been a company as a sponsor or a strong supporter of Hacktoberfest. I think last year, one of our developer advocates actually participated in a couple of your lives that were like either in preparation to Hacktoberfest or to teach folks how they contribute to the projects. So, hey, mega kudos to Upright for supporting the ecosystem. But if you could tell us a little bit, like, if I've never heard of Upright, what is this? What are you building over there, and why do I need it?
So Appwrite, if I were to summarize it, is basically it's a backend as a service platform. So for anybody that isn't familiar with that whole idea, it's, you got the front end and the back end of an application. And as somebody who deals with the full stack, and I build my own backends, Appwrite gives me the tools that I need to build up and scale that backend much faster. So basically, I can abstract all that functionality away into a tool like this. So anything from database management, authentication, file storage, cloud functions, you name it, yeah, this is what a backend as a service takes care of. Now, each backend as a service kind of does a different thing. Every organization kind of specializes in a different area, but we kind of have our specialties, and really we're an open source alternative to Firebase for anybody that's familiar with that. So I know a lot of people are familiar with that whole concept. So we're providing the truly open source alternative to that. We want to focus on making sure you own your own data. We want to make sure you can control your own pricing and not really have any vendor lock-in into your application.
This is fantastic. So I can use Appwrite on-prem. I can run my own instances of anything that I have, right? But you also do offer a cloud version. And I don't know if, did we talk about maybe you showing us around, like taking us for a spin around? Yeah, we can do that as we chat. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. So I prepped a few things just because I didn't fully know the structure that we're going to get into, but I can go from giving you a demo project that I worked on for this stream. I can go through the console, kind of give you a full tour of that. And I wouldn't even mind, building something out if we have time just for a second,
wow.
because I love coding, or I love live coding, because that's where you do all the mess ups and everyone laughs at you. So whatever we have time for.
It's not stressful at all. That's why. All right. Awesome. Then as well, go ahead and click the present button here. If you don't mind sharing your screen.
Sure. Let me move a few things around here.
Yeah, let's go ahead and we can get to chatting up. So for those of you who are just joining, this is Open Source Friday, and today we have Dennis Ivy from Appwrite. And what is Appwrite? It's an open source platform that lets you add database functions and storage to your product. You can use it to build any application, mobile, web, using your own data, keeping your own data safe, and also using your preferred coding languages and tools straight up from the website. All right. So this is where, when we land on appwrite.io, this is where we land. Go ahead, Dennis. Take us on a tour.
So we recently went through a full rebrand. So if you're familiar with the old website, as of a week or two ago, it's going to be a little bit different. So we're going to have to refamiliarize ourselves. But essentially, I just want to go through the homepage, and then we'll go into that console. So this is that beautiful console that you'll get. And if you scroll down here, this is where we're going to introduce, the core features here. So authentication, we have our database, storage, functions, and real-time functionalities. So with that, we'll just jump into the console. So as you mentioned, you could install a local instance of this with a Docker container. I always recommend just start with the console, get things checked out. There's an amazing free tier that you can get started with, so you're not going to get charged for anything right away. Get familiar with this, and then you can decide later how we're going to scale up the application. So in my Appwrite console, this is where I can manage all my projects and all my data here. So I'm going to go to an old project here. There's not that much data, but it does have a few things set up. So I kind of want to use this as an example, and then we can go into creating a new one from scratch if we get into that. So in our console right away, we have statistics for our application here. So we have all the requests here. There's not that much because, again, it hasn't been run for a while. We can see all our databases, all the documents, all the information about it, including real-time connections. So we'll just go feature by feature here. So authentication, with this, we can create users. This is where you can manage all them, password reset functionality, all that goes with it. We can also create different teams. So let's say you have like admin users, you have different tier level of users, depending on, let's say, what they're subscribing to in your application. We have all this ability to control these users along with plenty of OAuth providers. So we're still working on a lot of this authentication stuff, but I think we're most of the way there with authentication. All these tools that you're able to plug into, with GitHub authentication, Google authentication, this is all working right out of the box. So if we go to our databases here, so we can create multiple databases. I have a development database. Here we have different collections. So these are tables. It's really a relational database. We call them collections. But here we can see our different tables or collections and then view the actual data within here. So there's some data from an application that I built before. Custom functions. This is really exciting. We have upgraded our functions to where you can do automatic deploys to GitHub. So if you're ever updating the code, those functions are automatically updating. And we have about 9 different runtimes at this point. So .NET, PHP, Python, Node, Dino. We can go all day with that. So along with that is file storage. So this is where we can store images, videos, PDFs, whatever you want, any kind of static file storage. That's all in here, along with we can also add in custom webhooks, and we have a real-time database. So that's kind of like a quick overview to our console. I know I'm trying to speed run this, but I'm interested in hearing questions and at the same time just kind of elaborating as we start using this console. So let me know where we want to go next from
Sounds good. Okay, folks, if you're tuning in now and you have questions specifically about the console, the dashboard, anything that you've seen, go ahead and drop it on the comments, and I'll be happy to ask Dennis for you. But I love to see it, like, let's spin something up.
Sure, let's do it.
The thing that it does.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do here is go through the process of spinning up a backend, something that normally would take you a couple hours, heck, even a couple days sometimes, depending on where you're going with this. But I want to spin something up in a second. So we're going to have a database with some data along with some images. So back at the beginning stages of the console here, we're going to go ahead and create a new project, and we can actually import a project. We can import from Firebase, Supabase. We can import from our own local platform. So let's say we have a local instance of Appwrite. We can always import that kind of data in here. So let's go ahead and create an empty project, and we'll just call this live stream. So get that set up here. So automatically we're going to get a project ID with this. Then as we continue here, we need to select our application. So we're going to go with web. We have a lot of SDKs here. So at this point, we're sticking to web. We're just going to go ahead and create an instance or select the host name. So this is basically like where you're connecting to your application from. So when I'm connecting from localhost running a local instance, I need to make sure that we're pointing to that area so we don't have any CORS issues. So for the project name, we'll just say contacts. So let's just say we're going to create like a contacts list. We're just going to have like a database full of people here. And at this point, we can actually skip this. So we're not going to do the front end just yet. So we just run an install, we import Appwrite, and then we can go from there. So this gives me the information to connect, and we're ready to go. So our project's set up here. So the next step here is simply creating a database. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a development database. So we'll just call this dev. And let me know if I need to zoom in a little bit more. Just want to make sure I can see it.
Maybe we can just a tad. Sure,
so. Let's do that right there. Yeah, I'm on a bigger screen, and I know some people watch from their phones. So we're going to go ahead and create this database. Again, if you don't add an ID, it's just going to get created for you. We'll go ahead and generate that. And in that database, we need to have collections, so different tables. And we're just going to call this one people. So we'll just store people in here. And let's just go through the process of actually adding some data now. So in here, actually, before we add data, we want to set up some attributes. So what does a person need? They need a name. So we're just going to select the data type. So in here, you'll see that we have strings, integers, floats, booleans, relationships, which was a new feature that we just added, and we're going to be constantly building out. But here, we just go ahead and add in an attribute. Let's just say a name shouldn't be more than 50 characters. Can't really imagine a name longer than 50 characters, but that should work. So we'll give people space there, and we'll just add in, let's just say, an age. We'll do that. Go ahead and create that. We won't make these mandatory. And then the last thing I want to do is just go ahead and add in a URL field. And this will be for profile pic here. So we'll just throw that in. And that's going to store a URL. Okay, so we're back inside of our collection. And here we can go ahead and actually create a document. So an actual instance of a user. So let's just go ahead and we'll just throw in my name. So we'll just do Dennis Ivy. Why am I doing that? Okay. From here, we'll just throw in an age, and for the profile picture, we'll leave that empty for now. So we'll just go ahead and create that. And here we go. So we now have some data. So within, under 2 minutes, maybe under a minute and 30 seconds, we have a database set up with users, and we can now start connecting to this from our front end. So if I wanted to, let's say, add in some images, and I might have to zoom out because it starts messing up the formatting of my screen, what I could do is go ahead and upload an image here. So we'll just create a new bucket. We'll just call this profile pictures. Okay, so bucket ID will automatically be generated. And let's just go ahead and add in some images. So I have some images prepped here. We'll bring this in. And there we go. We have file storage, and no need to go ahead and create my own AWS 3 instance, anything like that. I'm ready to connect to it. If I go to this image, I can actually share this image in the chat. Let's see. Oh, I just realized I'm not connected to the chat, so I can't do that. But if we open this up in a URL, this is a live URL right here.
So it's already live. That is
yep.
awesome. Okay.
Yes. So with that, I can also set the permissions too. So let's say I want to make sure nobody else can make any changes to my file storage here. So we can always jump into settings here. We'll go to permissions, add some permissions. And I'm just going to say any user can read. So we can simply read data. We're not going to allow anybody else to add data, because if I set this to add, in theory, anybody can start making requests and start messing with our file storage system here. So with that, let's go ahead and go to the user, and let's just add in a profile picture to Dennis Ivy here. So we'll go ahead and modify the data, and we're going to update that URL. So this user now has a profile picture. So that's the backend. I still have to configure a few things as far as permissions. So right now, like if I try to connect to it, I still have to set permissions for my database. So let's say if somebody tries to make a request, they're going to see an error right away, because before we do anything here, we need to make sure to go into settings, just like we did with our file storage system. And we need to tell Appwrite who we're going to allow to access this information. So let's just say any user can read. Let's just say update, delete and update from this specific collection. So we can set permissions at the collection level. We can set it at the row level, so specific items in the database. So now we are fully able to actually connect to this. So that's our backend all set up and complete with some file storage.
That is super easy, and what a flow. Like from start to finish, it took you no time. And I take it you can add whatever attributes you need for your database. Everything
Yep.
is customizable, right? Like this is very, very impressive. You mentioned earlier something about relationships and it being a new feature.
Yes. So we added this attribute here. So we're still working on how you're going to query that those relationships. But let's say we created another collection, and we'll just call this post. So let's say we have like people making social media posts. This is a social media application.
Okay.
We won't add any data, but let's say inside of a post, we'll go to create an attribute. And with a post, you usually have a many-to-one relationship, right? So one user can connect to or can have many posts. So that's a one-to-many relationship. So if we go here, we can always select relationship. Let me zoom in here. And we can go ahead and select that relationship, select the collection that we want to connect to people, and we'll select a one-to-many relationship. So a post is connected to people. So post can contain many people. Actually, that's the other way around. So it's many to one. Maybe I set that up incorrectly. But from here, we can set up the relationship. We can decide what happens when the parent to this relationship gets deleted. So let's say if a person gets deleted, do we want to delete all the posts, or do we want to just leave like that person attribute empty? So from here, we just hit create, and the relationship is now set up. Let's see. Oh, the field is required. So at this point, let's just say cascade. That means we're going to delete every post once a person is deleted. And that's the relationship. If you want, what I could do is I can actually spin up a completely fresh application using Vite, Vite, that's the right way to say it. And we can actually connect from the front end if you're interested in taking a look at that. But I'm going to stop right here.
No, let's take a look. Let's take a look. And folks in the chat, thank you so much for your questions. And shout out to Aditya. I think they must be from your company. I think they are. I think I recognize them. Yeah.
Yes.
So, hey, shout out to Aditya. Has been like our chat soldier there answering all the questions. So thank you. Main questions that have come up so far. Is this free? How can I use it? And yeah, answer, of course. You can self-host using with a single Docker command. You can go ahead and spin up your own instance. And right now, I understand that the cloud offering is beta, so that might be free at the time as well. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so I have my people helping me in the chat because I'm a little bit newer. So for me to answer any question, yeah. So the free plan is actually very generous. So in the free plan, this is still in beta. We haven't launched the official pricing plan yet. But if you want to upgrading for $15 a month, I can't remember all the information that it gives you with it. I thought I can click somewhere. Maybe if we have somebody in the chat that can kind of answer this question. But this is going to give you more than you need for most projects at $15 a month. And the free tier is going to give you plenty of data too, or storage for this. So that's a great place to get started. We spent a lot of time on this and have gotten great feedback from the community. We involved the community quite a bit with this. So there was a lot of research that went into this.
I love that. So, I mean, what this shows me is that it's got the possibility to scale with you as you grow whatever it is that you're building. So take the starter plan for a spin, and then if you see that you need more, then you can go and upgrade. This is really cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And with that, I wanted to mention one thing. This is if you're using cloud. So this is not with just Appwrite. If you want to get your own instance, we have a quick configuration to Docker. You have full control over that. And there's a few other platforms. So this is specifically if you're using the cloud tier, if you want us to take care of everything, the scaling, all that. This really takes a lot of the headache off of you. But if you want to do that, just so people don't feel like they're going to get locked into anything, because that's what we're trying to stay away from. We're not trying to give people a surprise bill at the end of the day. That was kind of one of the main reasons for this.
I appreciate that. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And honestly, like, just to not have the headache of thinking about having to keep everything updated. Like, if you're going to take care of it, like, sorry, lazy folk here. It's good. I'd rather get you spin it up and take care of it for me. Awesome. There's a couple of questions that I've not seen answers to. So let me just ask you, I saw, and specific to what you were working on just now, from Fish Sharp. And hey, Fish Sharp, what's up? Thank you so much for joining us and supporting Open Source Friday. Did you set all users to have permissions to read all in users table? How to set it to read, say, only owned records? And let me know if we need more clarification of the question, and I can.
Yeah, so I think the question is if we want to have almost like document level permissions, right? So for example, we have, let's just go to post, right? So if we go to a setting here, so let's say in theory, if I give permissions to authenticated users, right? So we go into permissions, I'll zoom back in. If we have permissions, I can in theory say all users can now create, read, update, and delete. Well, this is not exactly a good thing, because in theory, if I know, let's say, your post ID, right? If you made a post, I would be able to edit it. So what you can do is in the SDK, when you're creating a specific user, you can add permissions to where only I can edit my post and you can edit yours, and no one else can touch those. So it's like a document level permission. At the same time, we could set a permission to where, let's say, like only admin team members can edit posts. So people like on Twitter who are maybe the administrators, let's say there was an issue with the post, I need to flag it, they have permission to take down a post. So yeah, I think I got the question. I think it's asking about document level permissions. And that just means that only the owner of a specific record can modify theirs. And yeah, there's a way to do that all from the SDK.
All right. And here, look at the community to the rescue. You folks are awesome. Beanie's code. This might be someone that's an avid user from your Discord and saying the same thing you just said. You can set permission for the collections for any given document by account, by team, or labels, which is cool. I love that granularity and being able to keep everything secure like that. Sweet. Yeah, take us for a ride on the what you wanted to build. I think while we scroll down and take a look at more questions. Sure. And thank you so much, everyone who's joining us. If you just joined, go ahead and don't forget, I'm going to drop right now while we give Dennis 2 seconds. I'm like, this has been about speed, Dennis. So I kid. We'll give Dennis plenty of time to get set up. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to go ahead and ask of all of you, I'm dropping the Appwrite repo into the chat. Let's go for a spin and click that start button. Let's show Appwrite some love this Oktoberfest. Go ahead. It takes 2 seconds, folks. Let's do it. That way we can support this amazing community. And there were a couple of people that were asking about how they could become more involved. And I would think joining the Discord is going to be the place. Good job, Irakli. Thank you. It's already done. It's already been starting. I'm a full believer in the power of community. Let's go ahead and let's cross a significant threshold of stars here today. I think we can do it. All right, Dennis, I'll be quiet now and you talk us through what's going on. Okay, sounds good. So again, I could have set up some boilerplate. My whole thing is I want to build it from scratch so nobody misses a single step. If I am talking too fast, you can also let me know, because I live stream all the time and I've streamed for 12-hour stints before. So that's my record right now. And I'm used to just hacking away and coding. So sometimes I can forget that the audience is still watching me. But with this, we're simply going to need NPM, and we're just going to spin up a vanilla JavaScript application.
we're going to use the Appwrite SDK, and we're just going to connect to it and make a request. So it's going to be a simple application. I just want to show you how to do everything from the front end. So up until now, we've set up the backend. We've configured some permissions. So let's go ahead and start from scratch. So we're going to run an npm create and then vite. I recently learned that it's vite and not vite, and it stands for fast in French, I believe.
Vite.
Like vite, yeah.
Okay.
So
holy crap! I didn't say invite. Okay. All right. Here we know.
Yeah. Okay, so we have that set up. We give our project a name. We're going to go ahead and just select vanilla JavaScript. We're not going to use TypeScript because we're scared of it. And I'm going to go ahead and open up VS Code. Now, I tease about the TypeScript thing. I just know that the second you use something that people may struggle with for a second, like maybe somebody that's newer, you kind of lose a lot of the audience with that. So, okay, so we have a stream demo. That's what we just named it. We'll just run a quick install. And
what
I'm going to...
this? I love it, by the way.
The theme? Or?
Yeah, what your VS Code theme is there.
I believe
it's not a question from the audience. It's a question from me.
It's a Halcyon, I believe. So HAL, this one right here, Halcyon theme, if I'm saying that correctly.
Love that. Thank you.
I like the way the code looks in it too, actually. So once we see that, it's going to look nice. So I'm going to just get rid of some things here. Let's just go ahead and create a fresh project. I know that this isn't like Appwrite specific, but again, I just love making sure that everybody sees every step. Okay, so we'll save that. Let's get rid of this JavaScript image just to make sure everyone knows what to clean up here. And in main.js, we'll just go ahead and remove everything but that styling import. And I think we're good. So let's just go ahead and run the application. So npm run dev, and we should be ready with this first step. Okay, so this is our blank project. It's dark theme by default. Just to prove it, we can add in, hello world. I probably misspelled something there. Okay, so here's our application. We have this. So in the beginning, when you set up a project, we saw those that npm installation, and then we also saw the connection with the SDK, basically that function that we can use. So we're going to go ahead and use that. And I think I can actually find that within here after I create a project. So let me actually didn't prep for this step. So give me 1 second.
No worries. Take your time, folks. Don't forget to swing on by the Appwrite repo and drop a star while you're there. And thank you again, Aditya, for answering all these questions on the chat. So don't be shy. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat. And if Aditya cannot get to them, then we'll ask Dennis. And folks, I think a lot of your community folks are here too, so they can help out too. It's
awesome. Okay, so we got that original function here. We need to basically create like this object that we're going to access everything from. And I just went into the documentation, into this quick start section, and we're just going to grab it from there. So we're going to go ahead and bring that in here inside of main.js here, and we need to install Appwrite. So this is going to be that first step here. So we're going to turn off our server and run npm install Appwrite. So we install the Appwrite web SDK. That'll get us set up here. Then we need to go ahead and just import this client object. Once we import the client object, we can go ahead and initiate that client. And in here, this is where I'm going to need my project ID. So for this endpoint, if you have a local instance, this will look something like this. It'll be a local host. But we're just going to go ahead and just leave it. So I'm not going to write out the full thing. So we're connecting to that. So let's go ahead and grab that project ID. So let's see. In here, in settings, if I go to overview, I see my project ID under live stream. I'm going to delete this right after. So we'll paste that in here. And then we can continue on with the next step here. So what I'm going to do here is also connect to my database. So I need this database object. And we need to go ahead and set up a variable that allows us to actually port into our database, right? So we have our client that connects to the application. And then we're just going to go ahead and create a variable called databases. And this will be new. And we're just going to set up databases, and we'll pass in the client. Okay, so that gives us access to the database. And from here, I'm just going to go ahead and create a function, and it's going to be called get people. So let's go ahead and do this. We'll make this an async function. And in here, in order to actually start making my first request, all I'm going to do is go ahead and connect to databases. So we're going to connect to that databases object, and we need to call the list documents function here. And I'll zoom in a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and call list documents from the database, and all we need is a database ID and a project ID. So we're going to configure that as well. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll do DB ID, and we'll also do project ID. Okay, so from my Appwrite console, let's go into database. We're going to grab this ID right here. We'll bring that in, and we'll grab the collection ID. That's the dev collection or dev database, and then the people collection. And this is collection ID. Okay, so with that configuration, all we need to do is pass in the DB ID, collection ID, and let's just go ahead and console out this response. Let's use await. All right, so let's cross our fingers and let's hope that this works. So with a few lines of code here, I simply connected to my project. We made a request. We want to just simply see all the documents from the database. We console them out, and let's take a look. So if I open up my console, let's run a refresh. Oh, I need to start my server. That's probably a good idea, right?
I need that. There we go.
Okay. So collection ID, collection with requested ID not found. What did I do here?
Might be a little copy and paste error, maybe?
Yeah, probably. So let's see. Collection. Oh, I did post, not people, it looks like. Or maybe I duplicated it. There we go. Okay, got the right collection.
All right.
And there we go. We are now connected. So I can see the response. I see the amount. So we have one document, and we have this array with this object. So in here, we're going to see the collection ID. So there's default values set up with this. We have the time it was created, the ID that was created, the permissions that we have, along with the URL and the name, age, and profile URL. So backend, front end is set up. So for somebody that's building out this application, the rest is up to them and how they want to integrate their front end, but we're officially connected, and that's kind of like the Appwrite part that's taken care of. So that's all complete.
That is awesome, and that was blazing fast and super user friendly. I really enjoy that. This is very, very cool. We have a couple of questions about connectivity. I guess extending. Let me see if we can. Maybe I'll throw you one of those while you're still working on this. Is it possible to connect Appwrite with any other external authentication services such as Fusion or Auth0?
Auth0. I think we're talking about OAuth providers, right? So we do have Auth0 right here. I think that's the question. And yes, you are able to connect to that.
Perfect. So there is already, there you have it, folks. That is the list of all the OAuth providers. And then some questions about security, which I just get into them. A lot about how limits that we saw earlier in the stream. And if you're just joining, you can go back and take a look. This will live in YouTube as well. How you can set specific permissions. So I think that answers that security questions. Any other questions that you have, please feel free to drop them in the chat. What else you want to show us, Dennis? This is so cool.
So we connected with the front end, and I thought about maybe building that out a little bit, but I realized it's going to kind of go away from the Appwrite stuff. So what I want to do, instead of building out the current front end that we just made here, is I want to actually show you a query tool that was built out. So in the questions before the stream, you asked me to kind of show an open source project that I've worked on. And I actually was able to put this together this week. And I had a friend help me from the open source community, and he made it so much better than what I was actually planning to do here. So here is this Appwrite query playground here. And anybody can actually use this right now. So it's a live URL. And all this is going to do is it's going to allow you to simply build an Appwrite project. So if anybody wants to follow along after the stream when this is recorded, or even right now, you create an Appwrite application, and then you simply add in your credentials here. So in this setup, we're simply going to add in our project ID, database ID, collection, and API endpoint. and then we can start making requests. So if you look in the documentation, so the whole purpose of this is to show you how you can run Appwrite queries and test them out before you have to actually build out a full application. So let's see, in the documentation here, and I'll actually run a quick demo. So in here, we have requests here like list documents, which we just ran. I'll zoom in here. So you see we had to run list documents, we pass in these credentials, and then there's a certain query that we can add in with this. We can also run different queries like selecting certain attributes. So let's say we only want to get the name and title of a user. We want to run a query for everybody over the age of, let's say, 21. So we're going to go ahead and test these out now. So what I'm going to do is actually go ahead and get my same credentials. We'll go back to my project here. And if we want to, we can share this in the chat, or if somebody can write this out, it's appwrite-query.vercel.app. So we just published this, and let's go ahead and add in the credentials. So this is how you would use it. And what did I call my project? I'm trying to remember what I had it under. Live stream, right? Okay. So we're going to take this project ID. We're going to go to this query tool, put this to the right, and we'll pass that in. So we won't be able to see that right now. Then we'll go into databases. We'll take our development database. We'll pass that in, and we'll go to the collection, and we're going to people. We'll copy that ID. We'll paste that in. And for the API endpoint, because we're using cloud, this can stay the same. Okay, so the beauty of this query tool, I can simply go to import now, and I can see a list of the queries here. We're still adding more, or I'm still adding more to this project. And I haven't completed all of this yet, but let's say we want to check out that list document function. So because I already pasted that into this original setup, it already has the variables configured for me. So if I want to make a request to the collection, let's go ahead and check this out. Let's hope it works. Fingers crossed. I got an error, and I know what this is. Okay. So because we're accessing it from this endpoint, I need to go back to my project, and I need to make sure CORS is configured. So we need to go in here, and originally we set this to, let's see, localhost, and we're just going to put that to this new endpoint now. So we're going to save it, and let's go ahead and run this query. And look at that. So here I'm able to test these functions without the overhead of writing out a full application. So all this code that we set up right here, it's not that much, but let's say you don't want to have to connect all this. You don't want to download the SDK. You just want to build a project and start testing out the queries. Let's say I want to make a request for simply one. I want to get everybody over. No, that's not a good one right now because we don't have that much. Let's just say we only want to get the name attribute here. So let's go ahead and find that, select right here. So we still call the same function. We make the request, but in this array is where we're able to use this query object right here, and we're able to tell it what values we want to select. So if I run this, now I just simply get the username. So the database ID and collection will respond with that, but I'm able to run that request and filter out the kind of information I return. So let's say we have like certain details about a user that we don't want to make public on a request. So we can limit those. If I want to run some kind of filter, let's say I want to get every user that is over the age of, let's say, 27, we can go ahead and make that request. And by the way, this is just an example. So if you have different attributes like, we'll just say, I don't know, let's do, what's a number that we can compare to? Letter grade. So we'll just do grade. So everybody with a grade of over 27, let's say we're on a scale of 100%, right? So we can run these queries and start testing them out. But one thing I do want to say is if we try to use this query tool, some of these queries won't work. We're going to get an error. And what's happening here is anytime we're running any kind of query against an Appwrite database, we need to add an index with that specific attribute. Otherwise, it's going to throw this error. So with this is actually a perfect learning example to actually be able to open up a specific collection. And we're going to add in an index. And this allows it to actually search this database. So we're just going to do a full, actually, let's just do a key search. And we're going to select the age. So now we can go ahead and search against that. And now when I run that query, let's see, hopefully it works. Greater than or equal to, let's run the request. Okay, so there we go. So greater than 27, let's just say greater than, let's do 30. And we're going to return nothing, right? Because we only have one user with the age of 29.
Got it.
So just a note there, you're going to have to, before running this query, for each attribute that you search against, let's say you want to, oh, it just took a minute to process that. That's why I had an error. For any attribute that you want to search, let's say we want to do a full text search against the name value. We're going to need to go into indexes, and we'll need to create an index. For this one, we'll just do full text search, and we'll just say name. And now if I have different names, I can find a specific user by their name. So at this point, I can say something like, let's see, let's do an equals to search somewhere here. And we can just do name, Dennis Ivy, run the search. There we go. If I remove like the IVY, it's not going to return anything. We also have a starts with search, so we can do starts with something like that.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And there we go. So that's the tool. I stressed a little bit over this because I built out like a very rough prototype. And then my friend Sharir Shuvo, who's actually the person that I met in that open source community, he took the project and just completely revamped it. So I can't even take credit for
This
what
playground
this
is
is.
awesome. Yeah, this looks amazing. And is this the correct URL? It's appwrite-query.vercel.app.
Correct.
And
Yes.
Thank you, Yao, for posting it on the chat, so you folks see it there. So this is super sweet. So if you want to give it a go before you start actually doing anything else, and you just want to start testing your course, you can go ahead and do it on this playground. And this is open now, right? Like folks can go.
Yes, it's a live URL. I was literally coding about an hour ago. We were making our last request. So if there's an issue with it, we'll have it fixed. And by the way, this isn't a formal Appwrite product. I haven't even showed the team yet. This is just a demo that I worked up.
Oh, I love it.
I want to make sure not to misrepresent Appwrite because I didn't get approval for it.
Right.
This
Listen,
is just
I love the
Appwrite team.
idea of a playground. And yeah, I mean, it's super cool. I'm sure eventually it'll make its way into your documentation or somewhere else. And
Fingers crossed.
Because this is super, super cool. Thank you so much for everyone who's been leaving comments. Xavier's got thoughts. Yo, this is like Postman. But more.
Yes, it's Postman specifically for Appwrite. Yep, that was kind of the idea. And by the way, I'm gonna go ahead and delete the project just right now because I did expose some keys and I just kind of took a risk. So we're just gonna delete live stream, and that'll be the last demo that we show with this. So the playground will no longer work.
No, this is fantastic. Thank you so much. Also comments from JP, liking the functions, quite easy to use. I mean, I think there is a lot of folks that are super fans of Appwrite already. Thank you for this incredible demo and from sharing this playground. I'm a super fan of this. This is really cool. Love the option of being able to play around and test your queries before doing anything else. Now, this hopefully will be part of the open source project. And, remember, folks, give it some grace. The man literally just finished coding this 2 minutes ago. So if you go to the app and something is not happening like you're supposed to, remember this is a brand new thing that he's testing out. But thank you for your generosity in sharing it with us today. Let's talk a little bit about what's coming up for this month. I'd love to know what kind of, and I think we'll do one more question about, I think the community is taking care of it, so we're good. But I want to know what's happening for Hacktoberfest. Like, what are you all thinking? If I just watched the stream and I'm like super jazzed about Appwrite, and I'm like, you know what? But I'm a first time caller. Are there good first issues? What's the best way for folks to get involved and start contributing?
Yes, so this is actually my first year participating in Hacktoberfest, and with my onboarding process, I'm still trying to figure out what we're doing. So I'm learning with everybody, but what I could do is I can kind of summarize it a little bit. So first of all, Hacktoberfest is definitely very special to Appwrite. This is where we got our start. I think it was 2019 when we first joined, and in that first Hacktoberfest event, we had over 150 to 200 contributors and first time crossing 1,000 GitHub stars. So it's kind of got a special place in our heart, and Appwrite's been sponsoring Hacktoberfest for 3 years now. It's been the main sponsor or co-sponsor with DigitalOcean. So really means a lot to us. So with this Hacktoberfest event, in order to actually participate for somebody looking for their first event, you have to just go to GitHub and look for the Hacktoberfest label. So just go ahead and punch into that search tab. I think you can just add in Hacktoberfest, and somewhere there'll be an option to look for labels. And anything that's labeled Hacktoberfest, go find that. Submit an issue if you see an issue that you want to that you see. Go ahead and submit an issue. See if you get a response. There's a bunch of issues that Appwrite's already put forward. I know other organizations have done this too. But you simply respond to an issue. Say, hey, I want to take care of this. I want to contribute to it. Once that gets approved, make sure you get approval, because it would be sad if you made all these contributions and then somebody else took it, because it is first come, first serve. So check out an issue, submit that you want to work with it. Once it's given to you, that's when you can go ahead and fork the branch, go ahead and make your pull request, and you have to wait a few days before that you'll actually get that response. So for Hacktoberfest, I think that right now, in order to actually get credit for it, you have to have about 4 accepted PRs, I believe. I think that's the number. This is where I'm a little bit less technically versed. So I hope somebody in the chat can help me with this. They can probably explain that. But that's pretty much the sum of it. And it's going on, all month long here. So we're excited to be a part of it. And I'm definitely excited because this is my first run.
This is awesome. Yeah. So folks, all you have to do is just go to the repository. You have to go by anyways to leave this amazing project a start. And while you're there, you just go ahead and filter by label Hacktoberfest, and there is a ton. So it looks like there's a lot of stuff there waiting for your contributions. For sure, join the Discord server. Read those contributing guidelines. What you said, very, prophetic. Don't spend your weekend on something and then come Monday figure out somebody else grabbed it, and then there you are. Unless you just want to learn, in which case it doesn't matter. But still, let's go ahead and use that time wisely. So please go by the repo, drop a star if you're interested in contributing to Hacktoberfest. I want to say it's 3 contributions. I should know this. Maybe someone in the chat will keep us honest as to how many contributions you need in order to be accepted, I guess, have completed the Hacktoberfest challenge. And I think there's definitely a lot of upside for folks that come in. And even if you've never contributed, just coming in, reading the docs, seeing what's there, seeing if you can have these conversations in Discord, integrate yourself with the community, is nothing but a win for you. You'll learn something. You'll get to use this awesome tech. And if you end up submitting the PRs and you complete a Hacktoberfest challenge, that's another feather on your hat. So nothing wrong with learning. I love this. This is fantastic. I am sharing. Actually, I think I can share a link with the label already applied. So if you're interested, I'm not going to show it on the screen because it's quite long. But if you're interested, go ahead and check out the chat on Twitch and YouTube, and you'll be able to click directly into that sorting where you can see all the Hacktoberfest labels. Xavier wants to learn and help. This is what's up. I'm awesome. Thank you, Xavier Manuel, for joining. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. We took so much time, but I love it, seeing the tech, that I don't want to let you go without asking you the fun questions so that we can get to know Dennis a little bit better. So if you have any remaining questions about anything that you saw today, the demo, remember the playground is still a very, very, very proof of concept. So you're welcome to go in and click about, but remember, this is something that's still work in progress. But there's a lot more that you can do with just spinning up your own instance. You can go into the website and start working on it right now if you like. The free tier is super generous, but there is a possibility for you to scale. So when your business booms, you'll be ready. Any other questions about the demo, the tech? Where can people reach out to you other than Discord? And I'm going to beam out the Discord URL. But I think you are on Twitter as well. I'm not sure if that's
Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Those are where I'm active. I'm not really a social media person to try to be active. I do it more for work, but I've gotten a little bit more accustomed to it ever since I started working, with people online. It's been really fun. It's kind of changed my perspective. It used to be like, oh, you go on social media to grow, and then what I grow for, well, to try to gain a following, and it kind of seemed like this redundant thing, like this endless cycle. Then I realized I've made some of the best connections, from social media at first, and then seeing people, at different conferences. I'm going to Next.js Conf, and it's like, hey, I know you. We connected. I wouldn't know that they were there, or maybe social media is how you realize the conferences people are going to. So I'm using it for that reason, and I do find it very useful.
Listen, there's a lot of good there. So when used for good, it's amazing. We're definitely changing lives there. Okay, so I've set out on the chat the Discord invite code. Go ahead and join the Discord server. I just clicked through it, and it's, my gosh, there's almost 2,000 people already there active right now. You have a ton of folks in this community. Love it that it has that friendly, hey, welcome, how can we help you feel? So definitely don't be shy. Join the Discord, swing by the repo, go ahead and leave the star so we can get this project through that. I think we can make it through that next 10,000 threshold. Let's do it as part of the stream, please. Any other tech questions about Appwrite? You know where to reach Dennis. Dennis, if you don't mind, on the private chat, also drop in me your YouTube channel. So if folks want to subscribe, they can do that. And thank you everyone who's been here, but let's not let Dennis go without asking him some fun questions, the wrap up questions. Which, yeah, I mean, and I think we talked a little bit about your first contributions to open source, but maybe not your first programming language. Do you remember what the first programming language you learned was?
Yeah, it's so it's kind of hard to say because I kind of changed it up at some point. So the first actual programming language was what is it? Visual Studio. What's the one with Excel? Visual Basic. That's what it was.
Wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I learned that, but it was horrible. And when I got to Python right after, that's what I really considered my first language. It was so refreshing. I was trying to do some data analysis on some stocks that I was looking at. And I was in Excel. So I'm like, okay, I put this data in Excel. And then I was like, how can I maybe run some code and like really optimize this? So learning Visual Basic was just terrible. You had to code within Excel. So you only had a white theme and just how the code would execute. It really was a bad start. Like I coded before, but it was just like HTML and CSS. So this is like my first programming language. But Python is really where I fell in love with coding. And that's what led me into Django.
Home, right? After that terrible experience, welcome home.
Yeah.
Shout out to Aditya. Hey, you basic. this is awesome. I love to hear from the folks that will join in on the chat. Like, let us know what your first programming language is. Yeah, that's a quick way to date myself, so I won't do it. But let's move on to another question. Let's see. If money wasn't an issue, how would you spend your time? I don't know. It looks like you're having fun doing what you're doing, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's the thing. I actually, if you answer this one for myself, I would do what I'm doing now at a different pace, I guess. Okay. So yeah, I definitely code a lot, and I do it on my free time, like regardless of whether I'm doing that for work. So I would choose my projects. I'd probably go a little bit into robotics. That's kind of like where it's like kind of like a secret love of mine, but I don't go there just because I don't want to shift my career and start something new. So I'm happy where I'm at. But if I had all the money in the world, I'd probably live on a farm in Montana and just build stuff and blow stuff up. That to me sounds so peaceful, just working in like a massive garage where I have all my tools, and not really a car guy, but I can get into that, So that's probably like the dream for me.
Hey, listen, there's a side hobby there, not hustle, a side hobby there for you. This is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And then I like this one. This is one that I've not asked. Well, I mean, we learned how to say vite today, so we're not gonna go with GIF or GIF because I think we've probably all been saying it wrong too. But what? GIF, right? Yeah, GIF. Soft or hard? Soft.
If it was GIF, it would be J. Yeah. I know the English language is weird. I know.
We are, yes. I say English is not my first language. I approve that message 100%. All right, let's see. What is your favorite song of all times? And sorry, I know we're going a little late, but this is a fun combo.
Probably Fast Car. I forgot who the artist was. I really like that one. Yeah.
There we go.
I'm not really a music person, but every time that song comes on, it hits differently.
I love that. Okay, this is awesome. And then we have some more folks that are Amy Chair, that Z was her C#, and then JavaScript is Bay for Xavier. Hey, what's up, Xavier? That's awesome. Thank you for learning JavaScript peculiar. There you go. I think that's like the HTML, CSS, JavaScript.
Perfect stack for.
There you go. Perfect stack. I love it. And then we're gonna close out with Irakli's question because this is a good one. So what do you enjoy more, front end or back end? Probably
back end. It feels weird saying that right now, right? Because I'm working with a backend as a service tool, but it's where I really like got into programming. That was my first experience in the application that I originally built out, was learning through the backend. So I'll always have a special place in my heart, but at the same time, I get tired of it in many cases because you're doing the same thing over and over again. But when it's like building out something new or building out some kind of tool, I love working with that side of things just because I pay attention to design, but I'm in no way a designer. Like I know what bad design looks like. I know what good design looks like, but I can't always create it. So I always need help with that. So front end, usually there's, you have the visuals, functionality that's important, but doesn't really add a feature necessarily. That kind of stuff really annoys me and I hate spending time on it. So yeah, for backend, it's kind of like you can let your code be as ugly as you want. The visuals don't really matter as long as you get the data back or it processes what you need. Yeah, exactly. Which is again Python. That's why I love Python so much.
100%, 100%. Dennis, thank you so much. It's been so nice to get to know you a bit better. Thank you for that awesome spin through Appwrite. I love it. This, for the folks who've asked, it has been recorded and it will be in our YouTube channel. After we're done with the transmission, I'll go ahead and post a link. So all the other folks who are joining from LinkedIn or Twitter also have the link for the permanent YouTube recording. Thank you everyone who's here. If you've never tried Appwrite, go ahead and give it a spin, give it a try. Swing by the repo, drop a star. I'd love to see how far we get in stars today. Join the community. Follow Dennis. Buy some of those Udemy courses. Buy some of those Udemy courses and actually do them. This reminds me, I haven't logged into Udemy in a hot second. I'm sure there is some stuff there. Collecting stuff.
I need to update my courses too.
Hey, listen, I'm out to go see what it is that you're teaching, but it's been an absolute pleasure. Is there anything else you want to leave us with?
I'm just excited to be here. I'm so happy that I was able to join and seriously thank you. If you notice, when I get excited, I talk really fast. So if I'm talking fast, it's usually because I'm like a puppy. It's like my tail wagging. I get really amped up. I have major ADHD, so it's just like amplified. So to me, I'm truly honored. Like I don't ever say that lightly. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it. And listen, team ADHD all the way, and this is true. But I think I am a firm believer that passion and professionalism go hand in hand. And heck yeah, you like what you're doing. This is exciting. It's awesome. This is the kind of energy I love to see here on Open Source Friday. So thank you so much for being here again, Dennis. Thank you everyone who spent this past hour with us. We're going a little bit over time. I'm very terrible at time management today. I appreciate all of you. Don't forget to go ahead and follow us. Join our meetup group so you know what our next event. I think we have some folks from Q1st next week, I believe. But there's going to be some really exciting programming reference Hacktoberfest. So don't forget to swing by, join up so you know what's happening. If you want to keep up with Appwrite, go ahead and give him a follow on Twitter. Give a follow to Dennis as well. And yeah, we'll catch you on the next one. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you, Dennis. It's been awesome.
Of course. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.